Hereditary is a masterpiece, and it is one of those movies where the camera acts as the dictator rather than an observer. The lens is the movie's actual antagonist, and it acts as the physical eyes of King Paimon. What we're seeing is a process of surgical geometry, where every bit of human control is stripped away through what is called dioramic framing. To decode the visual grammar of the movie, we must first apply Michel Foucault's concept of the Panopticon. Foucault described that a prison is designed so the inmates know they're being watched because of the watchtower, which forces them to change their behavior. But director Ari Aster flips this concept for Hereditary. The Graham family are entirely oblivious to the fact they're being watched. The cruelty of the film's framing is the invisibility of that watchtower, and we as the audience are occupying the eyes of Paimon. The camera routinely drifts through walls that should be structurally sound, treating the entire architecture as a dollhouse. This brings us back to the concept of dioramic framing. Aster utilizes deep focus, static wide shots, and high oblique angles to artificially flatten the three-dimensional humanity of the rooms. By removing the fourth wall and organically placing the camera inside the doorframes, floating near ceiling joints, or cutting a cross-section of the house's architecture, Aster reduces the physical universe of the characters into a rigid box. They are denied the visual dignity of a private space. The family's grief and their screaming matches their ultimate deaths, and none of it is a spontaneous reaction. It is a meticulously arranged performance for the entity observing them. This framing draws directly from the historical precedent of the Nuremberg kitchens. In the 17th century, incredibly detailed miniature dollhouses were constructed, but not as simple children's toys. They were pedagogical instruments. They were designed to train young girls in the mechanics of domestic management and subservience. The dollhouse was a tool of inevitable domestic subjugation. Annie's miniatures are a psychological defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to assert control over her chaotic life, but she is unwittingly participating in a macro Nuremberg kitchen. The cult and Paimon have built a sociological dollhouse to train, groom, and break her down for the ultimate domestic subjugation. Surrendering her bloodline to host the demon, she builds little prisons while entirely trapped inside a larger one. The thesis of spatial determinism is made clear in the film's opening shot, a sequence that triggers a total ontological collapse. The camera performs a 90-second, agonizingly slow push into a miniature room in Annie's workshop, which seamlessly transitions without a cut into Peter's actual bedroom. This is the most critical technical maneuver in the film. The absence of a visible edit is not a parlor trick. By erasing the boundary between the artifice of the miniature and the reality of the diegetic world, Aster establishes that the macro-universe is identical to the micro-universe. The real world is just a larger diorama. If the world acts as a miniature, then we must realize that these people possess no internal soul. They cannot escape the walls of their home because those walls were permanently affixed by their creator. Their free will has already been removed in the first 2 minutes of the film. This lack of humanity is reinforced through the auditory and psychological design of the environments, specifically utilizing Masahiro Mori's uncanny valley theory. Though Mori's theory typically applies to robotics or CGI, which is the revulsion felt when something is almost human but intrinsically artificial, Aster applies this to the live-action performances in acoustic space. For example, let's analyze the classroom sequence where Peter's teacher discusses Sophocles' Trachini and the concept of Greek fatalism. The visual arrangement is a masterclass in static wide dioramic framing, but the true terror is auditory. Listen to the dead air. There is a complete absence of diegetic background noise. The school exists in a total sonic vacuum, exactly like a toy box. And this artificiality is punctured only by a specific recurring audio motif, which is Charlie's tongue click. This sound operates as a trigger frequency. It is not a mere nervous tick, it is a diegetic metronome. Every time that frequency enters the soundscape, the dollhouse reality reasserts itself. It is the sound of the plastic gears turning, a reminder that the plot is moving forward. If the environment dictates fate, then the violence in Hereditary cannot be chaotic, it must be mathematical. The sequence leading to Charlie's decapitation perfectly illustrates this through locked precognitive framing. During the frantic drive to the hospital, the camera is hard-mounted and rigidly locked to the exterior of Peter's car. When the fatal accident occurs, the camera does not flinch or react with human kinetic empathy. It remains a cold observer. But the critical instruction for the viewer lies in the geography of the telephone pole. Look at the sigil carved into the wood. The camera pans to capture the sigil before the car even arrives at the point of impact. This is the decapitation geometry. The camera anticipates the kill because the camera as Paimon choreographed it. The accident is a mechanical necessity, a required step step in a demonic assembly manual. It is simply checking off a logistical requirement. This framing strips the sequence of its emotional weight and replaces it with industrial efficiency. The characters are caught in a factory line of trauma, moving exactly as the blueprints dictate. And this industrial efficiency requires constant surveillance manifesting in the film's visual rhymes. The viewer is conditioned to watch the upper corners of every wide shot. In a physical dollhouse, the prying eye of the child, or in this case the demon, always looks in from above, gazing down at a steep, downward angle into the roofless rooms. Aster mimics this geometry relentlessly. The camera frequently floats in the upper joints of the ceiling, hovering with a predatory buoyancy. The match cuts also bridge the gap between human grief and inanimate plastic. The ultimate thesis of the dollhouse ethics does not end with the Graham family, it ends with the viewer. Throughout the film, the camera has been established as the predatory eye of King Paimon. But who is looking through that lens? We are. By willingly engaging with the film, we are occupying the exact same physical and geometric angle as the demon. The film's architecture requires an observer to complete its function. A dollhouse serves no purpose if no one is looking down into it. This is the ultimate cinematic trap known as complicit voyeurism. We paid the price of admission to watch a family be systematically destroyed. The cult performed the physical labor of the ritual. The structural integrity of the dollhouse relies entirely on our gaze. We watched a ritual be completed, and we were the one holding the lens.